miscarriage of justice in the state of Georgia that cannot be overlooked.
I'm Dr. Diane Thomas. I'm appalled at the fact that Brian Kemp has the audacity to come to Quitman, Georgia, the town where he tried to keep me from being on the Board of Education. The town where he arrested, investigated, and then had arrested 12 people because we had the inspiration of trying to make sure our community, the community that we grew up in, the community that we graduated from, he did not want us to be out in our community getting people to voice their rights by voting. And when we did that, some members of the community did not appreciate the fact that when I got on the board, was elected on the board, it would change the makeup of our board. By doing that, they asked Brian Kemp, their friend, their counterpart, to come and do something that would change the results of the election for me being on the Board of Education.
The Secretary of State and the Governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished.
Now, the thing that gets me really mad is this. I was good enough to be a teacher. I did the same thing as a teacher when I was trying to be elected to get on the board. I knocked on doors as a teacher to get the parents to do what they needed to do. I went to their houses. I talked to the children. I called them on the phone. I did the same thing, but I didn't get arrested for that. As soon as I decided to run for the Board of Education, I knocked on doors. I asked people to vote for me. I was a good teacher. I didn't have to do much campaigning because my work as a teacher spoke for me. They knew if I was going to be the person like I was teaching, then guess what? I would be a good board member. It wasn't about what kind of board member I was going to be. They just didn't want me on there. They didn't want the makeup of that board to change. So Brian Kemp decided to investigate us.
The Governor, the Secretary of State are trying to intimidate and suppress the African American vote since they know if the 400,000 registered African Americans in the state of Georgia that did not vote in the last election cycle come out and exercise a right that people have died for, the right to vote. If the African American community and all people of color exercise their constitutional right to vote, it will mean the demise of this white privileged aristocracy here in Georgia. That is not American. That is not worthy of the state of Georgia.
So Brian Kemp decided to investigate us so that his counterparts can shut up. He investigated us, and when they investigated, guess what? Their findings said there was nothing wrong, but he did not. He did not even look at his findings and say, we're going to drop this. He had us arrested. He had us arrested. Brian Kemp is doing the same thing that he did in 2010. The makeup of what it used to look like in the 60s, that's what he wants. 2010, Brian Kemp is doing the same thing right now. Same Kemp in 2010, same Kemp now. He does not want to change the makeup of what we would look like as Georgians who care about our state.
This prosecution is a travesty. The prosecutors, the Secretary of State, the governor should be called out on what they have done to these women and called to publicly apologize for the 4 years that they have put them under this scrutiny and this character assassination. So that's how I feel about today.
Brian Kemp had 5 agencies to come to my house after I had won and my votes had been certified. To me, I thought I was done. Not according to Brian Kemp. They drove up to my house like I was a killer, like I had stolen something, like I was the worst person that you would even want. They even had the city police, they had the sheriff department, they had the state patrol, they had the state, his state people, and they had the G.B.R. They knocked on my door, like nothing. Like it was okay. Let's knock on her door. That same morning, I was supposed to go to G.B.R. Hospital to have an operation. Man knocked on the G.B.R. knocked on my door and said, "We're looking for Elizabeth Thomas." Okay, I'm Elizabeth Thomas. We have a warrant for your arrest. My arrest? Yes. I said, for what? For voter fraud. Voter fraud? Sir, I did nothing wrong. What are you talking about? We have an arrest. I said, sir, I'm supposed to be in Valdosta at 8 o'clock this morning to have an operation. He looked at me and said, let me call my superior. He called his superior and told him what I said. And he said, bring her ASS on.
The Secretary of State and the governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished.
I got in the car. When I got in the car, he proceeded to take me to another member, patrol me through town so that we could be humiliated. Brian Kemp wanted us to look. That's suppression. That's suppression within itself. He needed those people to see if you all continue to do what you are doing, the same thing that we're doing to them, you will get it too.
The Secretary of State and the governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished.
How dare he patrol us through town, take me to Angela Bryant's house and pick her up too. This is Angela. And I looked at her, I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I didn't know what the CID building was. They took me to the CID building and proceeded to fingerprint me. Once they fingerprinted me, they told me to put on an orange suit.
The Secretary of State and the governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished.
This is Brian Kemp. This is him saying, I love Georgia. I love Georgia. But you need to do what, you need to vote the way I need you to vote. Otherwise, you are not doing the right thing. They put me on an orange suit, photographed me, put my mug shot on the web to let people know we just arrested your so-called best of the best of Quitman, Georgia. How dare he do that? How dare he come to Brooks County and do a fundraiser to raise money after you have arrested? Do you realize what he has done? He did to our family members.
SOS Brian P. Kemp. You are wrong, and Stacey Abrams made it clear that voter suppression is real. Voter suppression, intimidation, impediments, and removing blacks from office has been well documented through hundreds of videos and interviews. Lastly, the news media outlets failed to publish the news in the black community, but truth is truth and will always be the truth. St. John 8:32, Joel 2 verse 1. G.B.R.
We are the real God-concerned citizens. We are the real God-concerned citizens. We say that again. We are the real God-concerned citizens. We're the real God-concerned citizens. And we support the man. And we support the man. We support the man. As you can see, it's overwhelming tonight. Overwhelming crowd tonight. We see an overwhelming crowd. The TV channel going. The young lady that told me don't support me. I have never
No one has ever seen me grab anybody's camera. Nobody has ever seen me touch another human being in Gordon. And I'm saying that is the temple in this area. And this is why the governor of the state of Georgia, or the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, or Georgia Attorney General Sam Olsen need to come here into these southern towns and try to put an end to this before this get out of hand. We have pleaded in several cities, and we have asked that our leaders come to try and resolve the situation. As you can see, the tensions are high, but I have never taught anyone. Yet this afternoon, the young lady grabbed my camera, as you saw. As you listen. Listen, please. Listen. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, needs to step in. Nathan Deal, Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp. This is why the Georgia elected officials need to come into Gordon, Georgia. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, the Georgia Attorney General, Eric Holder, the Justice Department, President Barack Obama, in all these southern cities. This is what is happening. And yet nobody, NAACP, the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, notice, look, listen. All right.
He told him to walk out, I walked out.
Get rid of you, your fast mind self. That's why she bringing me here. That's why she bringing me here.
He must have seen his name.
That's why she bringing me here. That's why.
He seen the last name.
It was more than him. And they can't stop nobody from laughing. You got it right.
You can't say it down, right?
I don't know.
Damn, did you know already?
That's why she bringing them all in. That's why. Don't want no black folks. Them that don't want to do right, they need to get them up there. They need to get rid of every damn thing from up here. All of them. The guys are supposed to be bringing stuff. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. They need to get rid of it. They need to get rid of it. Marshall don't need to be back in damn me. They need to get rid of that woman up there. They need to get rid of her and Renee was about to Trump in there. She sure did, looking like a wild hawk. The council member need to get rid of her and her. Now them council members need to get rid of that shit, man. They need to get that shit over there.
Petition, sign petition. They don't want to leave.
Man, ain't never been like this. So late is it? Ain't never been like that. I was born until we got these roads and trenches in here. I pay taxes. I ain't never been like this here. I'm telling you, ain't never been like this here. I'm born and raised here. You ain't never been able to speak up for yourself. Every time they try to damn block. They need to just get rid of them. That's what they need to do. Make me make it. All I would need to get myself on camera. You ain't nobody take the money like she did that over there in damn food. That's why she can't get a girl up and pay the money at night.
Kill, cool, sorry to kill me, but they ain't have, I ain't gonna pay my water bill, nothing like that.
How big is it?
Yeah, is it 4 inch or 2 inch?
No, sir. It was 6 inches.
6 inches. Okay, so he said what's happening is the pressure is measured
Okay, then, so what we did, we run that 6 inches water line down the road. And they hooked it up there. That's supposed to be a 6 inch. Huh? See what they do? Then what they do?
Really don't. I think Larry ain't doing.
Tap and run it to the house.
Really ain't Larry up there.
And so that's what
Oh, Lord.
See, if we don't go there, we got that big
They know what they're doing. They need to send that woman down there to and they need to get rid of it. Renee too.
Everything in there.
They need to, how they make her feel that?
She made it herself. She ain't never turned in her application for a job, but she won't give it to them. Even Renee. Okay, and how is they get paid? They ain't turn their application in.
Let me see what Uncle Lady talking about.
Tell you what,
I tell you what, go on. We can't go back in, y'all.
This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, or the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, or Georgia Attorney General Sam Ozer need to come here into these southern towns and try to put an end to this before this get out of hand. We have pleaded in several cities, and we have asked that our leaders come to try and resolve the situation. As you can see, the tensions are high, but I have never taught anyone. Yet this afternoon, the young lady grabbed my camera, as you saw, as you listen. Listen, please, listen. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, this is why the governor of the state of Georgia needs to step in. Nathan Deal, Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp. This is why the Georgia elected officials need to come into Gordon, Georgia. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, the Georgia Attorney General, Eric Holder, the Justice Department, President Barack Obama, in all these southern cities. This is what is happening. And yet nobody, NAACP, the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, notice, look, listen. All right.
I would like to tell America to take off the blinders. I would like to tell Governor Deal and any of the people up there that we elected, so they need to take the blinders off and come and see what's going on in their communities. Enough is enough, and that's it. We're not taking it. We're not going to take it down.
This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, or the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, or Georgia Attorney General Sam Ozer need to come here into these southern towns and try to put an end to this before this get out of hand. We have pleaded in several cities, and we have asked that our leaders come to try and resolve the situation. As you can see, the tensions are high, but I have never taught anyone. Yet this afternoon, the young lady grabbed my camera, as you saw, as you listen.
It is.
You're violating. I am the official record. You're not even supposed to take those out of my office.
Wasn't as advised.
Those are the official signed signature on there. You're very rude.
Leave it running. Leave it running.
And Mr. Ryan has no right to those records without open record
Please
request.
exit my office.
This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, or the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, or Georgia Attorney General Sam Ozer need to come here into these southern towns and try to put an end to this before this get out of hand. We have pleaded in several cities, and we have asked that our leaders come to try and resolve the situation. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, or the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, or Georgia Attorney General Sam Olsen need to come here into these southern towns and try to put an end to this before this get out of hand.
It's me, I need my minute books.
Okay, let me say this. I have the minute books, and if you need them, you need to go and
Do you realize you're supposed to look at those in my presence too? I'm the official record custodian. I am responsible
Clerk
for those.
Brown, good afternoon. And would you please
I don't
leave?
think so.
Please exit my office, please.
It is.
You're violating.
They,
I am the official record. You're not even supposed to take those
and
out of my office.
was it as advised?
Those are the official
by
signed
the city
signature
attorney.
on there.
Now, leave it,
You're
leave
very
it running,
rude.
Leave it running. Leave it running.
And Mr. Ryan has no right to those records without open record
Please
request.
exit my office.
And don't forget
Please
you haven't done your.
exit my office.
But it
You
is.
have not signed
We
your
was
check
advised.
sheet.
They was advised. She was
And
advised
please-
by the attorney.
The city
Please
attorney told me
exit
to
my
tell you
office.
that. You're violating the
Please
rules.
exit my office. Y'all are being insubordinate.
No, ma'am, you're being rude and disrespectful to your
Exit
employees.
my office, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
the attorneys will be contacted.
Thank you.
Greetings, this is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. As you can see, the people are gathering here at Garden City, and that's because this interest in this mayor situation with Gordon Mayor Whipperloo is really, really getting heated. It's beginning to spread in terms of the heartbeat of the real situation. The people now seem to be a little more interested in other things than just the Sunshine Law and the Open Records Law. They are now questioning the Georgia Appeals Court. They are now questioning the actions and the attitude of Judge Reeves. It's a lot of things happening. And we are here because we want you to know the truth, not the half-truth, but we want you to know the truth, the total truth. And so we have standing here the people. These are the citizens. These are the voters of Gordon. They came early. I think it's about 6:20 something. They came a little early tonight, so they want to see what's going on. And we're going to report it to you because this is what we do.
We support the mayor. We support the mayor. We support the mayor. We support the mayor.
I don't know who she is, but I want you to watch in slow motion what took place. I want you to see how my camera went up. And notice that I did not strike anyone. I was here moving out of the building. Watch in slow motion. You have already seen it in regular speed, but I want you to see the truth, because that's all I have ever done since 75 reported the truth. Councilman Edith, the Mayor Pro Tem, Edith, the Mayor Pro Tem. Listen, please. The lady right there, she's approaching me. Listen and watch. As she assaulted me, notice the camera go up, around, up, even to the top of my forehead. Then I brought it back. She returned. It looks as if though the lady in green is coming to block the view or to give her guidance. But it had been done. Once again, it is what it is. Now I'm going to back it up and let you see it in real time.
Okay, let him walk in first. Yeah. Excuse. Nobody out here has any firearms, do they? Anybody got any firearms, take them to the car now.
Just ask them for the
Where'd it go? Cell phone. Cell phone off. Where'd it go? Cell phone off.
That's a phone.
Yeah. What you got, Mrs. Wolf? Come on. Oh.
How you doing? All right, good. How you doing?
Keys. Okay. How you doing, Mr. Ryan?
How you doing, brother, man? Camera, as you saw, as you listen, camera, as you saw, as you listen. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, needs to step in. Nathan Deal, Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp. This is why the Georgia elected officials need to come into Gordon, Georgia. This is why the governor of the state of Georgia, the Georgia Attorney General, Eric Holder, the Justice Department, President Barack Obama, in all these southern cities. This is what is happening. And yet nobody, NAACP, the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, notice, look, listen. Once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Ryan. I think that we've had a good showing tonight, and people are really concerned about what's going on in Gordon. But it is indeed time for somebody to come in and put an end to this. I'm currently in Valdosta, Georgia. However, I have been to Gordon, Georgia on several occasions, as well as Meigs, Dawson, and many other small towns where black mayors were just recently elected to office in the state of Georgia. But what is now getting many people's attention in Georgia is this mayor, female in Meigs, Georgia, but Mayor Ann Whippaloo in Gordon, Georgia, well, it seems as if though she has received much criticism. One newspaper there at the Wilkinson County Post had at least 4 articles or 5 in one paper. It is as if though she has committed more crimes than, say, Jack the Ripper, or even during the civil rights movement, more than any of the people who denied blacks the right to assemble or to use their restaurants. And so it seems like there is a new emergence of trying to get this elected official out of office by means other than the citizens who voted her into office by majority vote. Now, I just wanted to show you the newspaper, but I just saw something on Facebook about the money. Now, as you know, the city hall, the city government in Gordon, well, let's put it like this. People don't even know about all the banking accounts that the city has. And so there are people who are asking, because just like in Meigs, Georgia, the problems really started when Miss Linda Harris asked for a audit concerning the money. And it seemed as if though that's where the trouble started. That's where the trouble started. Yeah. And now we have appealed unto Governor Nathan Deal, unto all public officials in the state of Georgia to come and stop all of this that is happening with the black mayors in Georgia. Now, you know, we don't want any violence, but you do know that we have already had violence with one mayor in Dawson, Georgia, who was shot 6 times and his mother was pistol whipped. So we can only ask the question, why isn't Governor Nathan Deal and Georgia Attorney General concerned enough to intervene in these dysfunctional city governments before more people are hurt? This is why I have been calling for all civil rights leaders. I've been calling for Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, the Honorable Al Sharpton, other leaders to come to these areas and give these black female, in particular, mayors some assistance. Yes, they need money for attorneys. What good is the NAACP and the SCLC and NAN, National Action Network, if they can't come down here in these most turbulent times? Now let's turn to what's on Facebook, and let's see what is happening. I know before I left, somebody had put up a sign about where's the money? They're asking Mayor Whippaloo, where's the money? Well, there's a lot of people that want to know about the money. So let's see what they have put here on.
Okay, I'm looking at this sign. Gordon, better hometown. Mayor, we need our money. I am so shocked and disappointed that the Better Hometown Committee, headed by Mr. Daniels, Bruce Daniels, I'm shocked that you would have your people put this sign up for the simple fact that the mayor has done nothing illegal. She has stolen no funds. So my thing of it is, Councilman Edie.
Now, Councilman Edith is the mayor pro tem. How can, and it's just me speaking, I'm not speaking for no citizen, but how can the mayor pro tem file charges or bring up things against the mayor on city council, on a council that he himself is a member of? Now, this is something that I don't understand even myself. It seems as if though there's a conflict of interest, even with the mayor pro tem, possibly, as well as the city attorney. I have never seen anything like this before. It's like a lawnmower cranking up to cut grass, and the grass is not yours. So what interest do you have in it unless possibly it's dealing with money? Let's hear more about this. Now, let me back up again. I'm sorry. Let's start over again. This is so good.
Where is our money? Okay, I'm looking at this sign. Gordon Better Hometown. Mayor, we need our money. I am so shocked and disappointed that the Better Hometown Committee, headed by Mr. Daniels, Bruce Daniels, I'm shocked that you would have your people put this sign up. For the simple fact that the mayor has done nothing illegal. She has stolen no funds. So my thing of it is, Councilman Edie, where is our money? City Clerk Tawana Brown, we need our money. And City Attorney Boone, where's our money? We need our money. That's who you need to focus on. Not the mayor, but
Well, well, well. She say that's who we need to focus on. Now, you know, it's kind of sad that our young people have to step up to the plate when we grown behind black men folks in particular, and white right people cannot do what needs to be done in support of a mayor that has only been in office for 3 or 4 months, even before this happened. So how could she take any money or all of the money in such a short period of time? George, U-R-G-E, Boston, B-O-S-T-O-N, Ryans, R-H-Y-N-E-S.
And how do you want to be CG? Just like concerned citizen, or how, what do you want your title to be?
A retired military veteran and owner of the Ghetto Free Press.
All right, I'll be able to use Ghetto Free Press. All of that won't fit.
Whatever you say is fine. Whatever you say is fine. Do it your way.
All right, yes, sir. Okay, so what did you want to say?
Well, mainly I want to say that, personally, I'm sick and tired of seeing what I'm seeing here with Mayor Ann Whipperloo. And the news media seems to be in cahoots with someone, maybe the governor of the state of Georgia, Nathan Deal, maybe other people who have a hand behind the hand of a man with a master plan. This master plan seems to be a plan to circumvent the black votes and the black voters in the state of Georgia and perhaps around the nation. Now, point. This incident with Mayor Whipperloo, I just received a call, that's why I'm here. It seemed as if though this thing is unending, and it gotta end somewhere. This situation with her is all seemed to me to have stemmed from when she asked for a forensic audit. Now, the people in Gordon here would believe, probably, that this is an isolated case with the mayor. It's obvious that she's black. You also have a case in Meigs, Georgia, with Linda Harris, the black mayor. She's black. You also have a black mayor in Gibson. His name, in Lumpkin, his name is Charles Gibson. So now, not to mention Davisboro and a lot of others, but the bottom line is that there is an asserted effort to circumvent the black voters. Look, in Quitman, do you not know that there was a 19-day court hearing with the Quitman 10+2 with Lula Smart? The G.B.R. charged her with 30 to 40 counts of voter fraud. For 4 years, They finally went to court, just one of them. And she was cleared. All charges was dropped against her. We watched the G.B.R. We watched investigators from the Secretary of State's office, Brian P. Kemp, along with Glenn Archer, who I have an interest in that he ignored problems in the voting process in Brooks County. The Secretary of State ignored that. We had people that filed complaints in Brooks County, and a state person, candidate running for state representative, made complaints, and they all was ignored. I personally gave him DVDs about the problems in Brooks County. The citizens in Brooks County are still waiting back after a couple of years to get a reply back from the Secretary of State on these charges. Now, short form, why did I say all that? Because if the Secretary of State will not respond to the people in Brooks County, and if, with the video that I've sent to Eric Holder of the Department of Justice, Nathan Deal, and others about this case, about what is happening in Lumpkin, Georgia, in Meigs, Georgia, in Dawson, Georgia, Davisboro, Georgia, and many other Georgia cities to save time. And for this to go on and on and on, it just don't make sense. You have seen people disrupt council meetings here. We've seen the chief of police fail in his responsibility to assist the mayor in maintaining order and discipline according to Georgia law in these public meetings. And there are orchestrated efforts to dethrone this elected official. We even see judges now. Judges are circumventing the voters in the state of Georgia. How can a superior court judge have more power than the people? I thought they say we were a nation of laws with freedoms and rights to vote, a freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and it's obvious about freedom of the press because I said it once and I'm going to say it again. When Bill Bassett talked about this audit that the TV station, Mr. Lou, don't want to talk about. They'll talk about the mayor taking keys, but they won't talk about that gas was missing, and this is why she took the keys. They won't talk about that. But all this has been documented. And so now it seems as if though some people want to make her think that she's unintelligent, they want to think that she's unprofessional, they try to make her look silly. Now they call her she threatened someone. I'm being quiet about that, but I was only 10 feet away from that. The newspaper here, you'll see my video on that. It just don't make sense to anybody of average intelligence to see how this mayor is depicted in the Wilkinson County Post. Not even Lester Maddox, not Bull Connors, not Albert Pike, not any of the people that was a part of something that was very disgraceful in the eyes of our nation was never published with ugly pictures as we see in the Post and the arrangement of a female. Don't you know, America, that this woman have children, grandchildren, and maybe great-grandchildren? How would you feel, America, if your mother or your auntie was depicted every week in the, like this mayor is being depicted in the Wilkinson County Post? Now, if you all are asking me why am I so passionate about this, because I served this country during the Vietnam era, and I'm not going to be quiet. You can come after me, you can do what you want, but the American people and all of our military people in uniform who are in foreign countries with their life on the line had better wake up, or they better get out those uniforms, because this country is going down like ancient Rome while we sit here and tell the world that we're about freedom, justice, and equality. We are, until it comes down to the black man and woman and his children. And this is nothing new, and it's not just a figment of my imagination, because I have white right people in Atlanta. They hit me up on YouTube. They traveled down to Quitman, to the Quitman 10+2 case after 4 years. Those people came down. The G.B.R. lied under oath. They lied. And then they form that they got is just a disgrace. And the thing about it, everything that happened with the Quitman 10+2 Lula Smart, all that stuff that took place in the courtroom was top secret, because nobody knows nothing about it because no news media was there. It seemed as if though they got their orders from somebody not to even recover that news-worthy voting case after 4 years. And I walked the streets even before it went to court. I walked the streets in Brooks County, and I interviewed people who said this. The G.B.R. intimidated people. There were people who said they would never, ever vote again. There's an 88-year-old woman in Marvin, Georgia, say she will never vote again in the United States of America. And so now I'm saying to the President of the United States, I'm saying to Eric Holder of the Justice Department, I'm saying to Al Sharpton, I'm saying to Jesse L. Jackson, I'm saying to Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam, I'm saying to W.D. Muhammad side of the house under Al-Islam, I'm saying to the Jews of Judaism, it is time now for us to stand up and let us stop doing what we are doing to these black women. And I found something out today that I didn't know about, and I'm going to add this in the mix before 6 and after 6. There are white female mayors that are catching hell on the backside of heaven because they are those who don't want the women in power. And so the American people can sit down and ignore all of this that's going on and say, it's Mayor Lou, she done lost her mind. That woman haven't lost her mind. What done happened is the same thing that they did to Dr. King. Dr. King said it. I put this on my video a few minutes ago. Dr. King said this: the news media is no friend of certain Americans. He talked about when he went out to march, they didn't walk with him for the most part. It was only when those children started getting blown down with water hoses that the news media came in for the most part. And so I'm going to rest here, but I want you to know, and I thank you for this. I know you're not going to air much of it, but I want you to know I thank you for asking me this thing. If it seems like I'm passionate about this, it is. I am passionate. You see, I was during the Vietnam era. When I got that order to go do whatever my commander told me to do, I had to go do it. I didn't have a choice in the matter. And for me to see what I see happening across America after President Barack Hussein Obama became president, it is indeed a reason for all black and white right people to stand up and say something. You all better stop sitting down on your backside and just willing to pick up that M16 and go out and fight for foreigners, but you won't fight for your own black women, your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your brothers who are mayors. Do you not know that Dawson, Chris Wright was shot 5 times, left in his yard for dead for whatever reason? That man is running for mayor again. But don't nobody hardly know nothing about that, because once again, our free press need to be called into question. Any question for me, my beautiful brother?
No, man, I'm good. I think you gave me a lot to work with and a lot to cut through. I appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you.
And also, thank you for your service.
You're welcome, man. Thank you. God bless you. Anybody else want to ask me some questions?
Mayor, what did you want to say?
I want to say the attorney, Boone, if he's so against the mayor, why would he want to work with her? There's no support there. Why would you want that job? You're working with the concerned citizen. All of us are concerned citizens. We are here for the upbuild of Gordon, Georgia. Not discrimination or racism. Why would you want to work with somebody and you are against that person? He resigned, but why do he want his job back? He's with the concerned citizen. That does not make any sense at all.
And you're the mayor's sister, correct?
Yes.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question? Do you think that maybe this has something to do with the audit?
Of course, yes. I think so. I know so. Who wouldn't want a clean slate coming in?
I'm not the mad black woman.
If I went into a new business and it was previously owned or mayor or preacher, anybody for that nature, wouldn't you want to know a report, a clean slate, or what the finance look like? You can't do anything without the finance being in place. So why not an audit? It's ridiculous. something as simple as an audit.
But one other thing, why do you think they find the worst pictures to put in the Wilkinson County Post of the mayor?
Anything to make the mayor look bad, and of course me to look bad also. They do me the same way. The worst picture, you know? I mean, to me it just seemed like they're about chaos, not helping the people and not for the people.
All right, thank you very much. What's your name once again?
Pamela Reed.
Thank you so much. The Ghetto Free
Thank
Press.
you.
Bye-bye.
Do me. This is a miscarriage of justice in the state of Georgia that cannot be overlooked. The Secretary of State and the Governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office, and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished.
Definition of an agency under the Open Meetings Act, that there's no real substantial basis to the complaint that was filed against her, and that the claims should be dismissed at this early stage of the litigation.
Now, there were two motions, right? What were you said there were two motions earlier?
That's correct. There were two motions. The first motion was that the mayor does not fit the definition of an agency. She cannot constitute a quorum of a governing body, therefore she is not subject to the Open Meetings Act as an individual single office holder. And the second motion was that as the mayor of the city of Gordon, she's not a legal entity under Georgia law that could be sued. Those are the legal arguments that we made. The judge ruled otherwise, so the litigation will proceed.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's always difficult to win a motion to dismiss at this early stage of the litigation. So we're not too disappointed in the fact that we didn't win that motion, but we did think the motion was meritorious, should have been granted. It was not, the judge saw it otherwise, so we'll carry on and go forward with the litigation.
Now that you have to go forward with the litigation, what is your approach that you're going to take for the next hearing?
Well, we're going to do discovery, take some depositions, go forward.
Are you going to argue for a jury trial or try to? Problem.
And why wasn't the mayor here today?
She had other obligations.
Anything else you would like to say that we didn't ask you?
Mr. Kendall, I want to ask you a question. Is this an isolated situation here, or is this something that may be happening in other cities in the state of Georgia here?
Well, I don't know. I haven't really investigated other situations. I just know what's going on here. I've heard of other situations, but I really don't have any first-hand knowledge of those other situations at this point.
Thank you very much.
And so July 25th is the next one.
That's correct. July 25th.
Thank you. Where are you based out of?
East Point,
And
Georgia.
do you have a contact number or a card?
EVLIN, Cooper, COPER.
And you're selling Melton?
Yes, ma'am. SELL, ampersand, and Melton, like thought, MELTON.
So the judge just dismissed his motion. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, we feel great. What he did was deny the motion to dismiss. There were two motions filed, which essentially said even if we offer evidence at trial of these violations, it would not be sufficient to warrant the relief we've sought. We thought was a frivolous motion at the time it was filed. It made no sense to us. I think our response to the motion set that forth, and our arguments in court did. We're obviously prepared to move forward. We regret that there's been about a 30-day delay because of the motion, and we're ready to move forward with all haste.
Now, there's 26 counts.
There were 24 counts in the initial complaint. Yesterday we filed an amended complaint which adds 9. We've got other concerns about financial irregularities, reimbursements that are not proper, concerns about these checks to Mr. Baskett, the auditor, that still remain unauthorized. In fact, the mayor has now stopped putting those issues on the council's agenda. So Mr. Baskett, the financial auditor, has never been authorized to be paid, and she won't even ask the city council now to do that. So we've added 9 more counts to the complaint, and we anticipate that by July 25th, when we can finally proceed to trial, that we'll have even more allegations.
And what were you trying to express to the judge? And you can look right at Taylor.
What do you mean?
Well, what was your case? I mean, when you're talking, he got up there and discussed his.
Well, our case was twofold. First of all, the Open Meetings Act specifically allows you to sue people who violate it. And it's in the statute. It says any person who knowingly and willfully violates the Open Meetings Act can be held liable to civil penalties. So that's what our suit seeks to do. The other thing that the suit seeks to do is make these allegations under the code of the City of Gordon and the charter of the City of Gordon, which allow for her removal from office. So our point to the court today is that these are issues that should proceed to a final evidentiary hearing, which is much like a trial, and that the court should rule on those issues at the appropriate time.
And the whole goal, your goal for selling Milton is to get Mayor Whipland out of office. Is that?
Yes, we think that this. We think the City of Gordon is teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. We're concerned that the state of Georgia is going to pull the charter of the City of Gordon, and essentially it won't be incorporated anymore. So our desire, our client's desire, and there's 7 of them that represent a much larger organization, the concerned citizens of Gordon, is to have her removed.
So now until July 25th, what is Selling Milton's plan to, come back to court and have a better case? Or you have, what kind of evidence are you going to be looking for? What are you going to be doing? Right. What are the things that you guys are going to be doing?
Well, in the next 60 days or so, we're going to be conducting a variety of depositions. We need to talk with Tawana Brown. We need to talk to the police chief of Gordon. We need to talk with people who filed suit against her and filed EEOC complaints against her. We plan to depose all 4 of the other members of the city council. We plan to depose the mayor. So during the next 60 days, we're going to be assembling more evidence of her violations. We've already got plenty, but we want more.
Now, you're also talking about, I know Mr. Kendall was talking about how after 2002 and that the law about, suing individuals. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the Open Meetings Act originally just provided for criminal penalties, and there was a case in 2012, Cardinal versus the City of Atlanta, that affirmed that the only person who can bring a criminal action is either the Attorney General, a Solicitor General, or a District Attorney. The 2012 amendments specifically provide for civil penalties to be imposed on people who violate the Act, and those penalties may be sought by any private citizen. Any person can sue, and that's what our suit seeks to do.
Now, his whole case was that what you guys originally sent to the judge and sent to the court was just, it wasn't right. It didn't have any type of legal basis. And obviously the judge denied that. So from here, what do y'all do when there's those, will there be any other motions that he could possibly kind of file through you guys? Any other motions from here to the point of court?
We expect a lot of delay from the defense. We expect a motion for summary judgment, meaning that we expect the defense attorney to present evidence to the court and ask, as a matter of law, that evidence is insufficient to justify the removal of the mayor. We expect Mr. Kendall to file a motion to seek a jury trial. We expect to challenge the constitutionality now of the city charter and the city constitution. I expect all the delay tactics that are possible from the defense.
Will you delay it all?
No. We're prepared to go on July 25th, and we will be ready that day. And we will oppose any delays in this case.
And just looking at my notes, it says, talking about the charter, how the city council and the mayor, that's the 6 and 7, was it 2.10 what the city council and the mayor is really considered?
Right. Section 2.10 of the charter of the city of Gordon defines the city council as being composed of 6 council members and the mayor of Gordon. And then throughout the rest of the charter, it refers to what is necessary to constitute a quorum. What Mr. Kendall argued today, what the defense argued, is that the mayor seemingly is not a part of the city council, can't constitute a quorum, and therefore could not vote, because the provisions that define a quorum specifically refer to what's required to be able to vote.
For all the plaintiffs here today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, do you have a card or a contact number for us?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll take it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Considering the fact that if the city is almost on bankruptcy, do you think that there's a great possibility that if this audit is not continued, that some type of audit should be done to account for all finances of the city?
I think the city should perform any financial audit that's approved by the city council. This has not been approved. I defer to the city council's judgment. I'm not a politician. I'm not elected by the citizens of Gordon, and I'm not here to determine what's in their best interest. An audit, and a forensic audit at that, looks at what occurred previously and what spendings occurred previously. It never looks at what spending should occur in the future. So outside of trying to file criminal charges or allege some impropriety by the prior administration, the financial audit would not be of any benefit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
How can you do me?
This is a miscarriage of justice in the state of Georgia that cannot be overlooked. The Secretary of State and the Governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished. The Governor, the Secretary of State are trying to intimidate and suppress the African American vote, since they know if the 400,000 registered African Americans in the state of Georgia that did not vote in the last election cycle come out and exercise a right that people have died for, the right to vote. If the African American community and all people of color exercise their constitutional right to vote, it will mean the demise of this white privileged aristocracy here in Georgia. That is not American. That is not worthy of the state of Georgia. This prosecution is a travesty. The prosecutors, the Secretary of State, the Governor should be called out on what they have done to these women and called to publicly apologize for the 4 years that they have put them under this scrutiny and this character assassination. So that's how I feel about today.
Thank you very much. This is the Ghetto Free Press, just keeping it real. Once again, I want to appreciate you. You are a prime example, in my most humble opinion. While we cannot hate one another because of the skin color, it's not about skin color. It's about what is right and wrong. I think perhaps that Jesus put it best, and I put it in my own words. Want for your neighbor that which you want, and have for yourself and your own children. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
We want to thank Shaveen King and Miss Simmons out of Atlanta for taking on and carrying on the civil rights movement. Thank you for everything you're doing. Once again, the Ghetto Free Press. Bye-bye. The word is not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Repeatedly, unanimous. This is the Ghetto Free Press. We are reporting what others ignore. The newspapers chose not to come, but we are here because we do believe that you have a right to know. And We are back in the courtroom. This is where it all took place. And once again, this is the request. And of course, thank you for a job well done, Sheriff. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. This is
President Donald John Trump making news this morning, peddling a conspiracy theory of widespread voter fraud. Don't make something up. Rick, and I got to tell you, to a certain extent, you're encouraging the problem here because you're redefining the issue to make it more acceptable to people out there. Well, there is voter fraud. Well, we do have to look at it. It's not what he's talking about, and you know that.
Well, Chris, I was very clear that I don't agree with the president, so I'm not encouraging that. But if you look at what his tweet says and look at what he says he's going to investigate, they are legitimate things to investigate. We do need to clean up our voting process.
Young man stood boldly before the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, at his meeting in Macon and talked about him as a candidate and how his name was left off some of the ballots. And when he brought it up to the Board of Elections, nothing was done about it. I don't want to go into that too much because this particular case was well documented at a meeting with the Secretary of State Professional Board, wherein the sheriff of Telfair County got up and talked about how they mistreated and intimidated voters in Telfair County. This is the sheriff, Christopher Steverson. And so all this has been documented. So I don't want to spend that much time on Clayton County, but that's getting a little close to Atlanta. But to get to Free Press, I was there at that meeting, and I interviewed this brother. And you can see it. Just Google Clayton County voting rights problems. But look, Madison, Florida 9, Quitman 10+2, Quitman Mayor James Charles Brown III, Meigs Mayor Linda Harris, Lumpkin Mayor and City Clerk Charles Gibson, Dawson Mayor Christopher Wright, and Clayton County voting rights problems. And look, the sheriff of Telfair County used these words. This is not me talking. Well, this is me talking, but I'm quoting him. He said that he had served in other areas of government and that the Secretary of State investigators was unqualified to perform the investigation. And he talked about the G.B.R. and the people who brought some of his best citizens up on charges, state level, and they did nothing wrong. Now don't take my word for it. So we got to add Telfair County in this group also. And this is the sheriff speaking to Brian P. Kemp himself.
I know this because I was one of them at one time. And I know these unfortunately, the investigator that got this case left a lot of questions unanswered. And in my opinion, this investigation was sloppily done. And I'll point out some of those instances in my letter. It is my understanding that several citizens of Delaware County have matters pending before this body. I would like to take this opportunity to address the board concerning my firsthand knowledge of the fine ethic and good character of many of the individuals named in this report, as well as the obvious investigative deficiencies evidenced throughout this case. Firstly, the complaint originated from an individual well known to my office. As a matter of fact, your complainant, John Dobson, is currently being investigated by the G.B.R. for recklessly and repeatedly pointing a pistol to the head of a local senior citizen while threatening the gentleman's life, only because he agreed with Dobson's outlandish and slanderous rants. Closest family circle. Sworn affidavits reveal a sloppy or non-existent investigation aimed only at smearing my family. See attachment number 1, pages 4, 5, 6, and 7, which are sworn affidavits that counter the allegations made against these individuals. I've been a criminal investigator for well over 20 years. I've investigated every crime from shoplifting as a local agency police detective, election fraud as a member of the Secretary of State's Investigative Division, to war crimes as a criminal investigator working overseas for the United Nations. In every case I've ever investigated, all witnesses and all of those accused were interviewed whenever possible. An investigator should never submit to a prosecutor, or in this case, to this board, an investigative report that reflects solely the uncorroborated allegations of the initial complainant. This is not the former Soviet Union, and this is not Saudi Arabia. The agent assigned to this case had 3 years to interview all the parties related to this case. I was told the agent claimed she couldn't find them. I was told the agent insinuated that many of the individuals mentioned in her report avoided her attempt to interview them. This is simply not the case. These people are honest and forthright in all of their affairs. They are definitely not the felons this investigator has accused them of being. After casually investigating this case for 3 long years, the respondents were notified they were being accused of committing various felonies by Chief Investigator Chris Harvey, and their case will be brought before the board in 30 days. I, as Sheriff of Delaware County, was contacted by several of these little old ladies and gentlemen named in the report. Many of these individuals are some of the dearest and sweetest elders of our community, hard-working, honest, tax-paying citizens who came up through the Great Depression and fought in our wars. Some are still involved in serving their communities in some way. They are proud Georgians who up until this time believed in our system. They believed in our election process. One 92-year-old widower, a World War II veteran, often boasted proudly to his family and friends that he has voted in every election since he was 18 years old. This same gentleman told me that he will never vote again because of this ridiculous accusation against his 65-year-old daughter, a retired school teacher, widow, and loving grandmother who has never had even the slightest encounter with law enforcement. Another, Mr. Henry Carnes, a 75-year-old respondent who is also a pillar of our community, stated in his sworn affidavit, "I doubt I will ever vote again based on how this investigation has been handled. It's just not worth the hassle." You can see his statement on attachment 1, page 2. As a trained career investigator, and at the request of some of the respondents, I read through the investigative findings regarding this case. I quickly realized that there was absolutely no evidence of criminal intent or fraudulent acts, but what appeared to be only minor errors in filling out the absentee ballot envelopes. I also felt compassion for these senior citizens because most are not physically or financially able to defend themselves before this board. I personally hired a private investigations firm to locate and interview the witnesses in this case and to obtain sworn affidavits from them. I merely provided the investigative firm the names of the respondents and witnesses and a copy of the complaint. Promptly, in the course of 2 afternoons, these witnesses and respondents were interviewed and sworn affidavits were obtained. The private investigation revealed that the first time many of the respondents were notified of these accusations was when they received notice from Chief Chris Harvey less than 30 days before the hearings. It also revealed that at least some of the respondents repeatedly reached out to the investigating agent after her card was left on their door and left messages but never being contacted back. one lady, Mrs. Carnes, a 71-year-old lady, see attachment 1, page 3, reported that she recently contacted Chris Harvey directly. The respondents and witnesses in this case obviously did not elude investigators, but instead attempted to reach out to them. There are several factors responsible for any errors that may have been detected by the state's investigator in this case. However, even the slightest insinuation of criminal intent and/or fraud is grossly unjustified and not supported by the facts. At best, many of the scenarios described in the investigator's report can be attributed to common errors and innocent mistakes. Mistakes such as poll worker did not check the box that an elector's driver's license was inspected 33 times countywide. Out of 35 ballots cast, that's not bad. Elector did not fill in the blank for the street address, 18 counts countywide. Elector signed their name in the wrong line, 1 count. Poll worker did not check the box that elector was physically disabled, 10 counts. These and similar violations go on and on to equal some 162 counts. I think this board would agree that the fine print regarding the oaths on the absentee ballot is very tiny at 1/16 of an inch. You can see an attached sign. The oath of person assisting elector states that only if the person assisted in marking such elector's absentee ballot are they required to sign the oath. Obviously, the investigator assigned to this case also had trouble reading the fine print, as many of those accused of committing a felony by not signing the oath had not assisted in marking the elector's ballot. They may have assisted in filling out the oath of the elector and are assisted in addressing the envelope properly. But in those cases, signing the oath of a person assisting elector is not required. However, if an investigator were to ask an elderly elector or if anyone helped them fill out their ballot, of course they'll say yes, because in their mind they did have help with their ballot. The help was in filling out the oath and address correctly, and maybe applying postage for it. When the private investigator specified to witnesses using exhibits to demonstrate what is considered assistance with their ballots, they quickly clarified their answers, and not one of the witnesses interviewed thus far has corroborated any of the accusations of wrongdoing. We also had a new and at that time inexperienced registrar who had a lot to learn rather quickly. She was in constant communication with the Secretary of State's office staff as she navigated her first election, nervously trying to do everything just right. I'm sure she probably made a few mistakes, but after this horrible experience, she will probably seek other employment. There is not one single element of this case that rises to the level of election fraud. There's not one single element that can support any claim of an elector not freely voting for the candidate of their choice. There's not one single element to support any claim of an eligible voter not being allowed to cast their vote. There's not one single element to support political corruption in our county. I would bet that if the state investigators scrutinized any county election in this state as closely and as for long as they have scrutinized ours, they would find a similar number of these mistakes and probably more. People are not perfect, and temporary employees who may work one election day every few years are bound to err. But as long as they err on the side of not denying a single eligible voter to cast their ballot, we have accomplished our goal as a free democracy. I feel it's very unfortunate that innocent, law-abiding Georgians can be dragged before this board and accused of committing felonies when a fair and competent investigation has not been completed. These matters will forever be a part of the public record, and these good and proud members of our community will forever be shamed and ridiculed for being undeservingly accused of criminal behavior by having their names attached to this report. I am hopeful the members of this board, Secretary Kemp, along with our legislators, will explore measures that might prevent other Georgians from suffering through such an embarrassing ordeal in the future. Best regards. Attached to my letter, you'll find several sworn affidavits that clarify and contradict the information that you've been presented by Investigator Harvey in his report. Sworn affidavits can stand up any court of law anywhere. you an analogy of what has happened here is we had a gentleman, we're known for our big deer and world record bass in my part of the state. This gentleman lured an investigation down here with tales of the big game we have. Well, once they came looking for that big game, they didn't find any because the guy was a fraudster. So before going back with an empty sack, they stopped off and bought a few packs of bologna. And that's what you have here is bologna. You can't make big game stew off bologna. I appreciate you all giving me the time to address you. It's upsetting to me. We've had so many negative issues surrounding our county historically. We've got new people in office. We're trying to change things because our economic plight is so bad. We don't have enough industry, and we'll take the rap for what we do, and we'll punish those that have violated the law. But in this case, I'm telling you, there's nothing here. This was a fishing expedition. When the complaints didn't pan out initially, for whatever reason, they decided to dig until they could find something. All you've got here is a few mistakes. And if you've ever been involved with filling out one of these absentee ballots, I'm sure you've made a mistake too. But I hope the board will consider the evidence that I presented. This case has not been adequately investigated. Witnesses have not been adequately interviewed. This case was strong together. It was sloppily done. And innocent Georgians have been dragged through the mud by being attached to this report as a result of that. And I think that should never happen to any Georgian or anyone in this nation as part of that case. I appreciate your time, and any questions you may have of me, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Any questions for the sheriff? No questions. Thank you, Sheriff. Anyone have questions you need?
And his own investigators, while the investigator, Glenn Archie, sat across from me, and he was the same investigator that went down to Quitman, Georgia, in Brooks County, and a public meeting was held by citizens about the irregularities and the disgraceful procedures at public meetings at a Board of Elections meeting that was not even televised to the people, and the supervisor did not even know that citizens have a right to record public meetings in the state of Georgia, nor did she know how to go into executive session, nor did she know how to close out a meeting.
Myself from any activity with the board until you get that straight.
What are you doing?
I'll be glad to give you an affidavit or statement or whatever, but until that gets, settled, I don't want anybody thinking that, we're trying to do anything underhanded or above,
I understand that, Ken. I understand it. But as a board member, we have to look into it or have someone look into it.
I understand.
So that's where it has to go from there. It needs to be looked into because I don't want that to fall back in my lap.
So, in essence, then I need to suspend myself from any activity with the election office. until that gets settled.
What are you doing?
Excuse me, y'all. I was asked a question, and I'd like to respond to you because I am recording. What I'm doing is that I'm recording.
You know what? You should not be doing that without informing us ahead of time.
Okay, let me. You asked me a question. I want to answer, if you allow me. Will you let me answer my question?
Go ahead.
If this is indeed a public meeting, I have a right to do this. It has been proven over and over again in the courts. I go all to these cities, Lakeland, all around. This is what I do. So I'm just recording a public meeting. Now, if what is being discussed would have been determined by you, the chairman, or whoever, if it's possible for you all to go in an executive session to discuss your matters, which I think maybe should have been there, then I know the procedures, and I definitely would not try to come in that executive. But if it's a public meeting, I have a right to record and to record.
He's right.
And so
Okay,
so when you ask, so I just answered your question, and that's my point.
All right. Well, we are going to call an executive session at this point. The rest of the meeting is adjourned.
That's not a big deal. So in order for an executive session, you have to state the reason for it. There's only 3 reasons you can go into it. You have to have a motion to go into it. You have to tell us the reason you're going into it. And then when we come back, you have to tell us what was discussed. So.
And there must be a
It's
vote
legally
on
the
it.
executive session. Anything other than that is sunshine.
Okay, so go ahead. What else? I just am feeling very threatened at this point and very just picked on and torn apart for people who have worked so hard trying to put something good together.
They didn't follow Robert's Rules of Order. This is the same Glenn Archer that listened to the citizens in Brooks County at a public meeting that was not advertised. But somebody called me again to that meeting because they knew that the handbook from the Georgia Attorney General about open records and sunshine apparently don't worth the paper in the binder. And so Clayton County, Dawson Mayor Christopher Wright, Telfair County Sheriff, all stood up for the people in the state of Georgia. But I want to ask the American people, do you think that Eric Holder from the Department of Justice came to look in any of these things that I'm telling you about right now? Do you think that Eric Holder came to the state of Georgia or sent some investigators out? So now you see what I'm saying. Why should we join the armed forces when our government keep walking away from us? While we keep loving the nation, our sons dying on foreign battlefields for a nation that will not ensure that we have a right to be accosted by a police officer and live after the encounter. You who say that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, when you look around one day, you're going to say to yourself, I saw them doing it to the black man, and I didn't say nothing. I didn't do nothing. I ignored it. But now that it's happening to my son, to my daughter, to my parents, but now it's too late, because you have emboldened Satan and his wickedness, and they have become so strong and so influential, and today are embedded in uniforms representing something else. And so now you are going to be caught up in the same catch-22. Then what are you going to say? Once again, just remember, God, our God, not that other God, but our God said he had no respect of persons. For what I say unto one, I say unto all. So you didn't come to my aid when you was in power. So now God is getting ready to shift the power. And according to Galatians 6 and 7, for God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man sow, that shall he also reap. This is the Ghetto Free Press. Press, and I'm George Foster Rhines, and we just found out that Meg's Mayor Linda Harris was found guilty. She was found guilty of $80.39 theft by taking and violating her oath of office. This is nothing new in the black community. We have seen people innocent found guilty by juries and judges across this nation.
This is a miscarriage of justice in the state of Georgia that cannot be overlooked. The Secretary of State and the Governor have made it very purposeful that they will send the message that if you are African American and if you run for office and if you honestly win the election, you will be punished. The Governor, the Secretary of State are trying to intimidate and suppress the African American vote since they know if the 400,000 registered African Americans in the state of Georgia that did not vote in the last election cycle come out and exercise a right that people have died for, the right to vote. If the African American community and all people of color exercise their constitutional right to vote, it will mean the demise of this white privileged aristocracy here in Georgia. That is not American. That is not worthy of the state of Georgia. This prosecution is a travesty. The prosecutors, the Secretary of State, the Governor should be called out on what they have done to these women and called to publicly apologize for the 4 years that they have put them under this scrutiny and this character assassination. So that's how I feel about today.